Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to round 4 of the UK Nationals 2015 held at the UK Board Game Expo at the end of May. My name is David Paterson, and on behalf of Netrunners.co.uk, we are pleased to present to you Mr. David Hoyland, on your left-hand side, the defending champion from 2014 and top 8 at the also 2014 World Championships, playing Replicating Perfection, and Alan Noonan there on the right-hand side from Ireland, playing Kate. I believe he did fairly well also in the Irish regionals as well, though don't quote me on that. There were a couple of actual two Irish players in the top 16. I believe we'll be bringing you coverage of those as well later as we go. So this is the losers bracket. The winners bracket, I believe at this stage, is taking a small break. Again, apologies for the shaky cam vision and the somewhat slanty angle. Just turn your heads and everything will be absolutely fine. Again, because the camera was on the table, unfortunately I had a few issues with framing and so on and so forth. But anyway, we're going to start off with install store hedge fund, which is about as good as it gets. And see what we're going to see here from Kate. Obviously it's very telling initially to see if we're going to see prepaid or something along those lines. Could be the early doors Proco, and he's getting out those lovely Team Covenant trackers. I think Dave has a set as well, but he very rarely uses them. I think it might be actually what they're talking about at this stage. He's just too quick. That's the issue, I think, fundamentally. Look at it, look at this, guys. Game 4 of the UK Nationals, and they're having a lovely little chinwag. Isn't the UK Netrunner scene just fantastic? So there is indeed the prepaid for free on his first click. Second click. One thing about having good click trackers is that you can actually see what they're doing, which is pretty beneficial. Looks like he's going to play a hedge fund, I think, after taking a credit. Oh, don't do that, mate. Please don't do that. Oh, this could be an interesting game. He's going to take some money. I'm not sure if he got his Kate discount there, actually, for playing the prepaid, but he will play a Proco last click, so already got his economy well and truly on the rails, so to speak. Dave going to start off with a mandatory and a regular draw. Looks like he's got a toll booth there in hand, which he's going to install into the remote. And he's going to take some money and pass the turn back over. Maybe looking to get some early asset economy sorted out, or maybe even sneak out a cheeky Nite. Who knows? So we have a draw, obviously with Proco, and looks like we're going to do it again, gaining all that lovely lucrative cash. And obviously seeing that turn 1 Proco could really keep his economy going incredibly well here, to be honest. Again, a free clone chip with Kate and an SMC on his last click, passing the turn out. This is an incredibly good start there for Kate. Seeing all his, the economy he needs, as well as seeing the tutoring he needs now to put early pressure on Dave. And obviously RP typically having problems in the early game. Looks like he's going to install, take a credit and pass the turn back over. Getting that remote server possibly ready to score, so that's going to be interesting to see if we see an early Nisei scored. There's a Caprice there in hand, as well as a Future Perfect. So we'll have to see what happens there. Looks like we're going to be doing some drawing with Proco, first and second clicks. And we're going to lucky find, taking all the money. Please don't bang the table, please, just don't do it. Again, there's a huge crowd gathering around all these tables, ladies and gentlemen, as well you can expect from a Nationals tournament. This was a great day. It was superbly run by both Coops and CJ, and also everyone else who was dealing with the event. But it was really well fun, and like I say, a lot of people wanted to stick around and see how the tournament ended, despite it being incredibly late in the day. Dave looks like he's taking 2 installing, and then passing the turn back over, solidifying R&D up. I don't think he's got too many agendas in hand, but it looks like he's ready to start scoring out, but he hasn't seen much in the way of economy at this stage. No asset economy, no sundews, no mental health clinics. Not necessarily that it would give him a huge amount at this point. Kate is absolutely storming ahead on econ. I can't quite make out, that's 10, the bronze one, and 5s and 2s. So already on 23 credits, and getting a significant economic advantage having that early door Proco. And there's a lady, which again will probably be looking to deal with any Elis that may be on the board. And he's also got the SMC and the clone chip, so he effectively now could go and fetch that full breaker suite as and when he requires it. And Lady obviously revolutionising Shaper to a certain extent. Looks like he's going to go for Papa Pocket R&D. He will see a pup. Pup. Yep. So he's going to have to pay those 2 credits. I'd say pup. It's just one of those cards you don't want to have to deal with. Double pup! Look at him! He's not a happy chappy. It cost him 2 things to res. He's not going to be able to use that SMC unless he goes and fetches a Parasite, I suppose. But I mean, 4 credits tax just to go through on R&D now, and it's only cost him 2 credits to res them. So he is going to parasite the lower pup, and again, if you're using an SMC to be able to do that, that's not the end of the world, and certainly it's a good exchange for Dave. Always kind of go back to chess terminology at that point, where if you're trading a 1-cost ice for an SMC, 2 credits, a parasite, the whole shebang, that's pretty reasonable. You have to say that's a very reasonable exchange. But it will make R&D a little bit more porous, and he's going to trash the Sundew, which Dave, I'm sure, would have been very happy to have seen at this point. Probably would have plonked it into that server while he was waiting to get ready to score out, if nothing else. He's going to draw Singer Jackson Howard, and the question is here, does he try and ditch the Future Perfect, look for some more economy, or is he quite happy with where he's at? Certainly he probably could do with a bit more ice now on R&D, and he's got to be wary of those meaty Kate run events, either Maker's Eyes, possibly even in indexing, who knows. He is in fact going to interns out the Sun Dune, so indeed he was quite happy to be able to bring that one back. And looks like he's going to clone chip and kill the parasite at the end of his turn. Sorry, kill the pup, sorry. So there's 2 pups down, both with parasites, but no more recursion left on the board now, and no tutoring. He's going to dirty laundry into R&D, makes good sense. He's going to access and they're going to trash another Sundew. So it's a good job Dave did have that interns in hand, really. Otherwise, he could have been in a real economic issue here, having real economic issues. Stop rocking the table! I think that's me trying to adjust the camera angle now. Doing my best. I probably should have just stood there and held the tripod down to the table. I do apologise, ladies and gentlemen. The next set will be better, I promise. It's just a shame it have to happen with Nationals. He's going to draw with Proco, getting another credit for the privilege of doing so, and he is going to make his eye, which makes sense, having just trashed the top card. He will trash the Jackson Howard. All the trashing going on here. Is that a Psy game? No, that's not a Psy game. Nothing else to see. So the agendas are very much hiding in the depths of Dave's R&D currently. Obviously he has the 1 in hand that we've seen already, and all of that Kate money has been utterly consumed by the successive trashing of Sundews and the Jackson Howard. It looks like he's going to have a poke at the Sundew server and try and deny him that mid-game economy that Sundew provides. And I'm pretty sure here Dave can keep him out with the toll booth if nothing else. So whether he reses that, he's not going to res that. He is going to res the toll booth. It's going to cost him another 3 credits to get through. And effectively, he's only resing it for 6. So I mean, that's not inconsiderable, and that's not too bad really. But it does mean now that Kate is back to ground zero economically, and Dave has the opportunity here to really turn the screws, solidify his central servers up, let that Sundew money tick over, and hopefully see something along the lines of a celebrity gift or something of that nature, just to keep his economy ticking up nicely. And there's that lovely Sundew money. And it's interesting actually, a lot of these Kate decks obviously have foregone playing or splashing the influence on a Fem, and so Toll Booth seems to have done a lot of work in this tournament. I've seen Toll Booths keep people out of remotes pretty much for the whole game. Just because, again, it becomes so taxing to even consider unthrowing it more than once. Obviously, with the Caprice at the bottom of it, it's even more nightmarish. He's going to ditch that Proco, having taken a lot of money and passing the turn. He's got that clone chip on the board now, so can potentially go and parasite stuff he needs to, or bring out that SMC for more goodness. He is going to install Jackson Howard and draw 2 with him. Probably looking for some mental health clinics, I'd imagine, or something at this stage, just to try and keep him ahead economically of Kate, which is always a difficult thing to do. Looks like he's just going to take cash and ditch a card. Can't see what he's ditching, whether they're agendas or whether they are something else. Not sure. He's going to use that clone chip and install a parasite at the end of Dave's turn onto the toll booth, looking to try and eliminate that as soon as possible. So that should come on with a counter there, but it doesn't actually currently have one at the moment. Hopefully they have caught this. Again, it's all very well looking at things like this with a fresh mind and fresh eyes, but these guys have been playing Netrunner for more than a few hours. Obviously 7 rounds of Swiss, and obviously now this is the 4th game of the top 16 cut, so not an insignificant amount of Netrunner, shall we say. Looks like he's ditching the Plascrete, which obviously against RP is exactly what you don't want to see. You kind of have to discard them. Dave getting all his centrals iced up now, and seeing the hedge fund, so definitely getting the economy he needs, installing there into the remote. You've got to assume that's the Caprice there, already having the asset. And so looking like now he's got a Caprice in his remote server, and as soon as he's in a secure financial position, can trash that Sundew and look to start... oh, he's got a levy already. That's very, very early. I'm surprised to see him levy already at this stage. Is he levying or is he... No, he's ditching the levy. Sorry. Sorry, I do apologise. So, yeah, they've caught the virus token. That's good. So, no, okay, he ditched the levy, not using it already. That was a surprise there, I'm not going to lie. So, we're going to see... Let's see. What we're going to see. Whose turn is it? What's going on here? What year is this? Who's the president? Okay, we're going to draw. First click with the pro code, gaining himself a lovely juicy credit for the privilege. Dave looking like in a sensible position here, though obviously there's only sort of single ice over his central servers. Could prove to be not quite as taxing as he would hope. The second prepay coming out now, and all he needs to see now is cards like Sure Gambles and his Lucky Finds to really gain that economic advantage, and there indeed is a Sure Gamble, and getting a 2 credit discount for the privilege. He's got one more click left. It's just a choice here of what to do. But when you've got Proco and you've got your prepaids going, suddenly he's in a very good position to be able to power through that deck. But he has ditched his levy, obviously hoping to find a Nisei. Sorry, not a Nisei, what am I talking about? A same old thing to be able to use it. Looks like he's going to install another remote server over there on the right, and he's going to discard, passing the turn back over. You've got to assume here agendas have started to pull up in hand for Dave. I'm surprised to have not seen more aggression against Dave's HQ at this stage, but obviously with those clone chips being used to parasite the toll booth and not to get his breaker suite out, he is a little bit limited as to what he can effectively do. He certainly needs that sentry breaker before running against HQ, but he hasn't ever had really the time to be able to do it. He's taken out those pups from R&D, but he's left himself perhaps a little bit vulnerable here, and given Dave a lot of flexibility and security, because obviously he can hit a Cortex lock or a Kamino or something of that nature, and suddenly he's really, really got problems. He needs that Mimic out on the board. And there's a clone chip, and he's got to, at this start point, stop bouncing that Parasite around and start thinking about putting pressure on these remote servers and having to break ice. You know, with 2 prepaids out and the professional contacts, you would assume here he's in a good economic position now to be able to apply pressure across the board. Maybe try and get rid of that Jackson Howard to stop him powering through that deck. Otherwise he risks just being ground out by the RP game. Looks like he doesn't have anything in hand actually. He's still got a Caprice Nisei there, but no agendas. He must have ditched into archives, so another reason there really to pressure that Jackson Howard, try and put them back into R&D, and then hopefully start assaulting it. Looks like we're going to legwork, so again a good time. I think I probably would have done the same at this point. You've got to assume that agendas have been pooling up a little bit in R&D. Another pup number 3. So it looks like he's going to pay 2 credits to get through, and he's going to have a look at 3 cards with the legwork. And let's see what he sees. I think Dave, having already got rid of the agendas, another Jackson Howard with one on the board is not the most tempting target to have to trash, but it does mean that, you know, you kind of got to trash it twice. So he will trash the Jackson Howard. Look at the next card. You'll see a Caprice, which he'll be very glad to get rid of. Although, obviously, again, we're already assuming there's one there already. The Christian Grid, which Dave probably wishes he might have been installed there on HQ. And again, he probably still may, so we've got to assume here that Alan isn't running anything like Vamp or anything of that nature. Otherwise, he probably would have prioritised trashing the Christian Grid there, because on HQ it can do incredibly good work. I don't think I've built a deck without 2 times Christian Grid in a very long time, actually, for the Corp. It just does great work on, again, on R&D against Shaper, or on HQ against everyone else, and 5 to trash is not insignificant. So it looks like he's drawing up with Diesel, looking perhaps for another self-modifying code or something of that nature. He's only got the 1 click left and a card full of hands, so he's certainly powering through that deck pretty quickly. There is a self-modifying code which he's looking to discard. I'm surprised. The Gordian Blade actually is looking to discard there, which is the Alt Art Gordian, and that Sundew has really been ticking over, giving lots and lots of money to Dave here. I'm not sure if the Parasites are right on that toll booth, to be honest. They may have missed one, but either way, it's not far off from death. and suddenly the security looking a little bit more limited. He's going to install an upgrade over under R&D and then play the hedge fund and the economy really now with Dave. And you've got to assume that's probably the Christian grid on R&D. And like I said, very strong against Shaper. Stopping those indexings will make his eyes. That can often become a problem. And just reduce that variability and access, and particularly because at this stage you've got to assume here that Dave probably has a significant amount of agendas in R&D. We haven't seen a huge amount. I've only ever actually seen the one Future Perfect in hand at this point, which obviously we're assuming now is in archives with the Jackson Howard on the board. Mental Health Clinic as well, so giving him that regular credit. And again, it gets to this point now, is it even worth going in and trashing that asset economy? It's very easy to kind of look at the game from a theoretical perspective and look at your RP matchup and say, you've got to trash the economy, you've got to trash the assets. But the reality of it is somewhat more limited, and when you're sitting across from, like, I don't know, what, 20, 30 credits there that Dave has, 25 credits odd, it's not hugely appealing. So again, you've got to assume here that you're probably going to leave that asset economy and instead go after R&D and HQ and try and pressure the centrals now. As soon as that toll booth dies, of course, it's suddenly game on. And Dave, not having a secure remote server here to score out of at this stage, hasn't been able to do so. Certainly hasn't seen the early Nisei Mark IIs, or you've got to assume he would have been using a fairly significant scoring window, where no tutoring or recursion was on the board to be able to do that. Another prepaid voice pad coming down on the board, as well as the same old thing, presumably there to get ready to use for the Levy AR access. So he's going to purge virus counters, which seems to make good sense, keeping that toll booth on the board, and passing the turn back over. And when you've got 3 recurring credits a turn ticking over, it's not really a wasted turn, is it? Let's be honest. He's gaining 3 credits and purging the virus counters, giving that toll booth a new lease of life. And with no data sucker to speed that along, purging that toll booth every sort of 4 turns will do good work. You've got to assume we're going to lucky find with the 3 prepaids to gain uber cash. And he's got the economy here at this point, both players do. But without that sentry breaker, he's got the clone chip though, and again I'm surprised to not see him attack with it a little bit more often here. He's got to be running through an R&D here. It could be he's got a Caprice for R&D, assuming it's probably the Christian grid. There is an SMC. He's going to pass the turn back over to Dave, gaining his 1 credit from Mental Health Clinic and taking his mandatory draw. And Alan not liking this situation at all. I think he's feeling suddenly like he's in a unpleasant situation with RP really doing its thing. Looks like we're going to set up another remote server. Maybe Dave waiting for an Ash or something of that nature, just to really secure. And another Sunji. Just what he wants to see. Does anyone remember when Replicating Perfection were deemed to be a fairly below average corporation? It seemed like a very long time ago now. So there we are, the Sunju, 2 Sunjus ticking over, and we're going to assume that other Sunju that he has in his scoring server as such is going to be going bye-bye very soon, and getting ready to start scoring out some lovely agendas. If he gets that Nisei Mark II scored, got to assume that's probably going to be the game. Alan's going to find it very difficult to recover from that, particularly because we know there's a Caprice there in the remote. He doesn't, but he can obviously make some safe assumptions. It's either going to be a Caprice or an Ash. We're going to draw a Proco, getting a credit. And like I say, that huge economy engine that Prepaid Cape provides is just still not getting him at the accesses that he needs here. You've got to try and put yourself in a lucky position with RP, I feel, and really pressure R&D to try, at the very least, to score those lucky agendas off the top. I say lucky, but obviously, again, RP gives up agendas fairly early quite often. There is a data sucker, fascinating. So he's been drawing up furiously for a data sucker now. Can he get the runs that he needs to be able to put that toll booth in the ground? I'm going to suggest probably not. He's going to have to make a lot of runs. It's going to be incredibly taxing for him to get the tokens that he needs to be able to destroy that toll booth. But if he can, that scoring server looking a lot less secure. And it is going to be interesting to see what else he does here at this point. Is he going to go for another couple of virus tokens, or is he instead going to just take some cash, pass the turnover? He's going to stim hack into R&D. Yep, R&D, and he'll see toll booth number 2, which he'll res for 8 credits. Again, if he had the Fem here, that would be an easy option to try and get himself in a good position on R&D. Does he have the Fem? That is the question. I don't think he does. So he's probably looking to have to either Cyber Cipher it or play out the Gordian Blade that he has in hand. Sorry, in the heap. But I don't think he's going to. He is going to crack his SMC and go and fetch an Atman, which I'm guessing is going to have to go in at 5 in order for him to gain the access that he needs. It's going to cost him 4 credits then effectively to get through that toll booth, and he will get his Data Sucker token as a result, but a 5 strength, oh, it's a 4 strength, okay, intriguing. So I guess he's going to have to bounce off of the toll booth because he doesn't have a Data Sucker token to be able to get through it. And I guess he's just taking the 3 credits and bouncing. He's obviously paid a lot of money for the stim hack for the privilege of doing so. He's going to take a brain damage and get rid of the diesel, which I don't think he's going to be terribly gutted about. And yeah, I'm surprised to see that Data Sucker does have to go back on top of the stack here. Hopefully they'll clock that. I think he's still got a click left actually, so that'll be why. So yeah, it's interesting that he didn't put that in at 5 strength. I'm guessing he's hoping to cover a few more pieces of ice at 4. He's going to legwork, gaining that virus counter that he needs. Obviously only paying 2 credits to get through the pup, but I'm pretty sure Dave doesn't have any agendas here in hand. If he did, he probably would have been looking to score them, to be honest. He'll see an Eli, he'll see a Lotus Field, and he'll see an Excalibur, so at least he knows that the 4 strength Atman wasn't too much of a waste, having that Lotus Field suddenly looking a lot less appealing. I don't think Dave's going to be installing that in a hurry, and if he can get that 1 Data Sucker token that he needs, he can pressure both the toll booths and also any Elis or Lotus Fields that Dave may have on the board already. I don't think he's going to be installing any more at this stage, and Dave just not seeing the agendas here, and he's been digging for them for a fair old while. We're on the 22-minute mark now, installing another remote, which you've got to assume there's probably another mental health clinic, another piece of ice over R&D, which he will pay for, sorry, not R&D, over the remote server, which he'll pay for. I think he's going to gain some money off his Sundews and pass the turn back over. So we've got a 4 strength Atman, we've got obviously 4 tokens on the lady, and no barriers yet to speak of. And yeah, again here he's probably looking for some decent 3 strength ice or something of that nature to hopefully try and keep that Atman out, certainly as much as he possibly can anyway. And Alan here, not in an awful position. He's going to draw up, obviously gaining that data sucker that he knows is there. Will he install it is the question. Maybe try running through on R&D on our archives and gaining it. He will install it for free using Kate's ability. Will he try and go for a data sucker token? I'm not sure what's going on here. Looks like he's had to trash the parasite. Okay, yeah, so he's trashed the parasite because he knows he's never going to get enough. Interesting. So, okay, so he's overwritten the parasite with the data sucker, effectively. I think that's legal. And so, as a result, he now has access to the parasite with his clone chip on the board and can pressure other servers rather than that remote. But obviously, making that toll booth that much more secure now on the remote server. Is Dave in a good position here to be able to score? Obviously, he effectively has a full breaker suite out. He just needs to get that code gate breaker. And he's able to wait on that. He's going to install over archives, trying to limit the temptation for him to gather data sucker counters. He's either going to have to run through the pup, run through archives, or run through a toll booth, and none of those options are particularly attractive. You've got to assume that's the Excalibur there over archives, and if he hits it, he's going to have to, unfortunately, only be able to make the 1 run, and so it's not going to be hugely appealing to get those data sucker tokens. Is he going to put 1 over R&D? I'm assuming he probably will here. He's going to draw 2 at Jackson. He wants to see the agendas, but at the same point he doesn't want to leave them vulnerable in his hand because he only has the pup there. Looks like he's going to install over R&D and pass the turn over. And they're all there. He knows they're all there. He's got probably a couple in archives. ready to go back in with the Jackson Howard, but doesn't want to use it just yet. Wants to see those Nisei Mark IIs, and wants to start scoring. Got a Caprice in hand as well, which you could probably put on R&D if that's a Chrysium there. Yeah, Alan here in an unpleasant situation. He's drawn up with Proco, gaining a credit, and it's just a question now of kind of where he pressures, what he does. He's dieseling. I don't know what he's looking for, whether he's looking for a Mimic rather than installing via the clone chip. Obviously it does mean at this point he would lose a program if he went and fetched the SMC, unless he can find an Astrolabe. And not having seen his Astrolabe early on, he's not going to get much value out of it now. Got 2 mental health clinics ticking over, 2 Sunjus ticking over. Dave is massively ahead on economy now. Well, I don't know, they've both got a lot of money in the bank, but at this point it's no longer an economic battle. It's all about just getting and trying to score out those winning agendas. Because they're still at 0 points each at 25 minutes. What can only be described as a very typical RP game. It's just waiting out the clock and getting and grinding out that victory until he's in a point where he can score effectively. Looks like he's going to run HQ, paying 2 credits, gaining an access, seeing an Eli, and having to pass the turn over. I think he's got 1 click left, maybe, actually. But to be honest, it's probably the data sucker token that's more useful than anything there. And given that 1 data sucker token, he can now break those toll booths with his Atman. And just needs a code gate breaker to kind of cover all the bases. Sorry, sentry breaker, rather, to cover all the bases. Looks like he's going to restore another amount, which again, we've got to assume is another mental health clinic. Or at Sunju. Maybe another Jackson Howard, just to keep his options open across the board. And he's still not seeing the agendas, and he's been digging fairly consistently throughout with Jackson to try and do that. He's going to install over HQ, maybe trying to bluff out that he's drawn into the agenda, because he most certainly hasn't by the looks of it. But make Alan waste time and money in getting in there to have a check and have a look. Obviously, Alan not really sure where's going to be most productive at this point. He's got to assume that there's a buttload of agendas in archives at this point, because Dave hasn't been scoring out with them. And he's had the opportunity to be able to do so, to be fair. So, Alan, assuming here that they've got to be in R&D. They've got to be in R&D, but is that a Caprice at the bottom of it? How attractive or appealing a target is it? He's going to lucky find, gaining all the monies. And I think at some stage he's going to have to start now considering using a Levy AR, which will open quite a large scoring window for Dave. Even though he's got a huge amount of money, he's going to run out if he's not careful here. Again, that RP grind can just become overwhelming. Looks like he is going to same old thing, and I'm going to assume here it's got to be the Levy AR access. It is indeed, and it's always nice when the commentator curses works in my favour. So he will Levy, and his hand and his stack will be shuffled back in. He needs to make sure he puts that same old thing in, I think. I don't know, does the same old thing stay out? I'm not even sure now. I think they're just discussing that now. I'm assuming the same old thing goes in as well. Yes, indeed. As does his, all the rest of his cards. Yeah, Dave pointing that out for him now. As long as he hasn't put back in the Levy AR access, he's alright. But I mean, Alan here in a fairly good position to break. You know, from what he can see on the board, he's got a 4-strength Atman with whatever the data sucker out. He's got his barrier breaker. He hasn't seen any memory whatsoever, so he is limited in being able to use the SMCs to be able to get his mimic out, which again I'm assuming he's been digging for here and hasn't seen at all. He will discard the Proco from his brain damage and pass the turn back over to Dave. 3 mental health clinics ticking over now. In fact, he doesn't have to discard because he's got the mental health clinics on the board, but that's an easy thing to miss. Obviously, mental health clinic increasing his hand size up by 3 cards now, so he doesn't have to be discarding. Not that he's going to care about losing another Proco at this stage anyway. Another piece of ice goes on top of R&D, and that's not looking attractive at all for Alan there. But I dare say that the reason for it is because that's where all the agendas are. They're all there, or in archives. So Alan needs to stop that first Nisei from being scored. He knows it. He needs to get in there, and I think he's doing the right thing here. He's putting down the R&DI, which he'll get a discount for with Kate, and it looks like he's going to have to try now. But he's got no sentry breaker. He's got no way of breaking sentries. That's not what you want to see against replicating perfection. I know Kamainu's may have fallen out of favour, but Tsurugi's still about, and like I say, Cortex Lock can do some good work. Obviously, at this point, it's a bit null and void. It's only going to give him one net damage, but there are, you can't risk not running against RP without a sentry breaker still, even with the fallout of Kamainu. It can become so taxing and such a problem. There is the Eli, so we're going to obviously see probably the first lady counter being used of the day, and indeed we will. So he'll pay a credit. Oh no, sorry, he's going to pay 2 credits with Atma. And again, the lady kind of a little bit pointless at this stage. We'll res the Caprice Nisei, might as well, he hasn't got anything else resed elsewhere, and he's got a buttload of money. So we'll play the first side game of the match, and that'll be a victory to Dave, and that'll bounce Alan out. But again, they're not on HQ. He's got that R&D down. Again, I'm surprised to not see him try and pressure R&D here. He needs to obviously put another virus counter on the data sucker, but I think he may have forgotten that one. And again, very easy to do so at this stage in the game, particularly when you're facing off against an RP with Caprices everywhere, 2 Sunjus, 3 mental health clinics, and Jackson Howard on the board. And Alan throwing his hands up in the air in exasperation, and I think probably quite rightly so. Looks like he is going to run. Oh my, it's a Susan! And there we go, that is indeed the sentry breaker. The sentry that he just cannot possibly even think about dealing with. He's going to throw himself now into archives, and he's got no means of breaking that, even with the data sucker. He's going to go smack headlong into a crick. Oh, that's horrible. Absolutely hideous combination there. And Dave now getting the opportunity to install out something from archives straight onto the board. Maybe look to put another Sunju on the board. Doesn't really need the money. There is that. He's got the agenda, which he might be tempted just to kind of pop into the remote, and I don't know. It's a difficult one. Maybe he's not even going to bother. He's still got 1 Sunju left you can put there, so you might as well just shove another Sunju on the board, surely. Or another piece of ice, perhaps another pup. Perhaps that Caprice can go somewhere. He is going to trash the Sunju, that's interesting. And he is going to install an agenda. Interesting. So, well, again, I'm assuming it's an agenda. Could easily be another Sunju. I just look to try and bluff him out, but we've got to assume that that's probably the future perfect there, which he just got on the board there with the crick, after being shoved into the crick with a Susan. And he's in a difficult place there, so he's able to jack out after going through the crick. And again, Crick doing fantastic work in RP all day long. He's got 1 click left. And he's going to struggle to get past that Susan on R&D now. Susan and a toll booth, and that's pretty darn taxing. And all that money being generated is going to really cause problems for him. I think he's just drawn up into 2 agendas. Oh, it's a daily business show. He's got a daily business show on the board as well. Oh, man. Oh, that's no fun. Oh, he's going to discard, so it was a bluff, but he's going to install double advance. So that wasn't an agenda. He was trying to get him to run through that remote server, but he didn't bite. But now he is, in fact, going to install double advance there. So yeah, he didn't bite on that one. Could easily be an Issei, could easily be an NEPD, but again, likely with a double advancement, probably going to be a future perfect. He just feels like he has the scoring window now to be able to do it. But does he? That's the question. Certainly, he's not got. He's going to have to bounce off the HQ server in order to kind of gain his click before he can run on the remote. Luckily, there's no enhanced login protocol or anything to have to deal with. I think that's exactly what he's going to do. So he's going to run on the Eli server HQ. He's going to run the pup. He's going to have to now bid against Caprice. And let's see, side game number 2, who comes out victorious? And it's level, so he will gain access to HQ. He will trash the Caprice, which I don't think Dave's particularly gutted about, because I'm assuming he's probably going to want to res that one on the remote anyway. The question is now, can he gain an agenda? I'm not sure if Dave's drawn up into any. This will be the question. And no, he will see Eli number 2 and have to pass it back. But he's got rid of the the Caprice at least. Does remember his data sucker token this time round, so at least he's got another couple. Because again, he will be able to break that Susan with enough data sucker tokens, but also he's still going to go through and break that toll booth as well. And I think suddenly he's probably wishing he would have put that in at 5, and that seems to have been perhaps one of the key misplays of the game. He's going to legwork, and I think he just wants to rule out the possibility here of any agendas pooling up in hand. Probably a good time to be able to do it. I think there's only 3 cards, so he's going to see them all, but he's going to have to access them one at a time. And Eli, a Baku, and a Celebrity Gift. No agendas in hand, and I think again that was pretty obvious. Again, Dave not really putting much on HQ. He's had the Jackson on the board the whole game, and so anything that he's drawn up that he doesn't feel safe having in hand, it's gone straight in archives. And the question is now, can he actually go through and score? They're coming up to time pressure here, and there's a very good chance, obviously, that the next agenda will win, effectively. It's obviously 0-0 still. If that is an agenda and Dave scores it, he will win the match. If Alan can go in and take it, I'm assuming he will win the match. He knows he's got nothing else in hand, and I think they've passed that 35-minute mark now, so time pressure very much the key. Whoever's going to take that agenda will win the game. And obviously be dropped out of the competition. And there is a Grim, which again is interesting to see him play. So he does have to now break with the Data Sucker. He was going to have to use 2 tokens to get through. He will obviously res the Caprice that was there on the server. And this could very well be the decisive side game of the tournament here for both of these players. They know that if they win this side game, they'll probably go through to the next round. Otherwise, they're probably going to drop out of the tournament because, again, this is a time pressure situation here. Whoever wins this wins the game, I dare say. Side game number 3. Drum roll, please. And who is going to take it? Here we go. Oh, is it? Oh, it was. It was. So it was. Sorry, 1. It was. Yep. So Dave won the side game there. Sorry, I couldn't quite make out. I think it was he bid 2, and Alan bid 1. The Nisei gets scored, in fact, rather than a Future Perfect, and that is the game. So they were all in archives there as he's showing him, ready to be shuffled back in with Jackson and Howard. Dave just kind of drawing out the game as long as possible, and then just scoring that last-minute agenda to win it. But very, very, very close, and it all came down to that just one last agenda. It's an unfortunate way to go, and again it came down to a side game, as often RP games do. Caprice Nisei once again proving her worth and dominance in the current meta. Alan unfortunately dropping out of the tournament, but Dave Hoyland progressing through to the top 8, and we hope to bring you more coverage of that in the not too distant future. Join us there and over at Netrunners.co.uk.